In 2018, a long-forgotten church record book was uncovered beneath the floorboards of Salem's oldest meeting house. Inside, authorities stumbled upon shocking documentation linking over 200 missing individuals to the Massachusetts witch trials, names never before mentioned in historical accounts. Each was carefully recorded in a private ledger belonging to Salem's most influential family, detailing execution dates, property values, and chilling annotations like acquisition complete beside each victim. While history officially recognizes 19 executions from the Salem trials, this discovery indicates the real number may have reached 237, intentionally concealed through meticulous and calculated record-keeping. Even more unsettling, all the seized properties were transferred to just 3 men: Judge Ezekiel Blackwell, Reverend Nathaniel Blackwell, and Sheriff Josiah Blackwell. These brothers, whose descendants reportedly still hold nearly 40% of Salem's historic district, appear to have orchestrated something far more sinister than previously believed. The most disturbing note: the final entry, dated October 1720, lists a young woman, Mercy Blackwell. Next to her name, only 5 words were scrawled: family matter resolved. Before we go further into the terrifying legacy of the Blackwell dynasty, it's important to note this channel isn't for the faint of heart. Only those ready to confront history's darkest corners should continue. If you're one of the rare few drawn to these buried horrors, subscribe now and let me know in the comments which state you're tuning in from. These are the stories most won't dare speak of, and we've only just begun. Let's now step back into the chilling heart of Colonial, Massachusetts, where this nightmare quietly began. The year was 1692, and what started as panic would unravel into a conspiracy that historians still shy away from confronting. Salem was a small, isolated settlement of around 500 Puritans, wedged between dense Massachusetts Bay Colony forests and a growing fear of the devil's influence. Its central meeting house, a handful of homes, and surrounding farmlands made up the town. Puritan doctrine ruled every aspect of life, and strict religious observance was enforced without exception. The Blackwells were a family unlike any other, their grand 2-story home, glass windows gleaming, a symbol of wealth, stood opposite the meeting house. At 46, Judge Ezekiel Blackwell presided over the court with unyielding authority. His sharp eyes saw all, and his rulings held the weight of Scripture. Though his clothes reflected Puritan modesty, his growing influence told a different story. Reverend Nathaniel Blackwell, 2 years Ezekiel's junior, delivered Sunday sermons so fiery that they seemed to shake the rafters. His gaunt form and piercing gaze earned whispers that he could see into men's souls. Meanwhile, the youngest brother, Sheriff Josiah Blackwell, broad-shouldered, always scowling, enforced the laws his brothers helped shape. He was rarely seen without his infamous carved walking stick, rumored to have broken more bones than any blade in Essex County. Together, these 3 men ruled Salem's spiritual, legal, and economic life. But change was creeping in. New merchants were challenging their trade dominance, and families like the Putnams and Proctors were gaining power. The brothers needed a plan to protect their influence. Then, whispers of witchcraft began to surface. The winter of 1691 into 1692 was brutal. Illness spread, food grew scarce, and in Reverend Blackwell's home, 16-year-old Mercy's niece and the daughter of Judge Ezekiel watched the unease build. Raised under Nathaniel's roof after her mother died in childbirth, Mercy had been given a rare education. She could read and write in both English and some Latin, skills she used to help record events in the church's ledger. With auburn hair always tucked beneath a modest cap and intelligent gray eyes, Mercy was a quiet observer. She recorded baptisms, deaths, and marriages with precision, ever asking why her uncle occasionally requested duplicate entries in a smaller locked book. One frigid February night, as she carried firewood to her uncle's study, she paused by the door. Inside, she heard her father's voice, agitated. The Porter widow's land borders the river, valuable access. She's refused to sell to me twice. Josiah growled back, frustrated. Nathaniel's voice cut in cold and low. Perhaps she soon faced troubles of a more spiritual nature. A chill far colder than winter crept over Mercy. 2 weeks later, Salem erupted with the first witchcraft accusations. Girls convulsed in the meeting house, claiming invisible torment. Respected women were accused of satanic consorting. Farmers were blamed for curses and blighted crops. At the heart of it all, the Blackwell brothers, Judge Ezekiel, led hasty trials. Reverend Nathaniel justified the condemnations. Sheriff Josiah tore families apart in midnight arrests. The number of accused ballooned. Jails overflowed. Suspicion spread like wildfire. And still, Mercy kept logging names into her uncle's secret book. By the time Widow Porter was dragged from her home during a rainy April night, the pattern was undeniable. Her land was quietly purchased days later by Ezekiel. At a fraction of its value, then came the executions. Bridget Bishop was the first, hanged on June 10th at Gallows Hill. Mercy, from a distance, watched her body swing in the breeze while her uncle prayed over the scene. That night, trembling, she stole into Ezekiel's study. She'd secretly made a copy of the key weeks earlier. In the glow of a single candle, she opened the hidden ledger. Her breath caught. Dozens of names, never spoken during the public trials, were listed. Each had a date, a property inventory, and phrases like acquisition complete or matter concluded. The realization struck her like thunder. Her family had orchestrated false accusations, secret executions, and then seized land and assets, wiping the victims from official records. And it didn't stop. July arrived, and with it came darker horrors. Sheriff Josiah began conducting private interrogations beneath the Blackwell house. Accused witches emerged with broken fingers and twisted joints. If they emerged at all. One stifling July evening, Mercy brought refreshments to the basement. The air was thick with blood and sweat. There, tied to a chair, was Goodman Thomas Putnam, his face swollen and mangled. Perfect timing. Mercy, her father said, casually taking the tray. Putnam's just remembered seeing Goody Proctor consorting with the devil. Putnam, barely conscious, whispered, "They made me say it. God help me." A sickening crack rang out as Josiah's stick struck his jaw. That night, Mercy copied pages from the ledger and hid them under a floorboard. In her bedroom. Someone had to know the truth by August. The lies began to unravel. Officially, some prisoners had escaped the Salem jail, but Mercy found their names marked in the ledger as disposed of or eliminated quietly. One note chilled her to the bone. Rachel Nurse, resistant to questioning. Property transferred. Family told she fled to Rhode Island. Mercy started gathering evidence. She smuggled writing tools into the jail. She secretly questioned victims' families. She tracked which properties her family had absorbed: farms, mills, churches, even riverside docks. By September, the Blackwells controlled much of Essex County, but resistance stirred. Cotton Mather raised concerns. Prominent citizens whispered about injustice. The brothers intensified their actions, drafting a list of priority acquisitions, targets to accuse before the governor returned. Then came a turning point. One night, as Mercy added to her collection of evidence, she heard the floor creak. William, Josiah's son, stood in the doorway. "I knew someone was sneaking into Father's study. I just didn't expect it to be you." Mercy's breath caught. "Will you turn me in?" "No," he said quietly, "because you're right. What they're doing is wrong." He revealed what he'd seen. His father burying Goodwife Foster in the woods. She didn't escape. They killed her. William offered a plan. The brothers were meeting the next night, discussing what they called the final acquisition phase. If they could overhear it, they'd have undeniable proof. The next evening, William and Mercy hid behind a wall in Judge Ezekiel's study. Through the thin wood, They heard everything. 17 families were targeted for false accusations over 3 weeks. The Corwin estate was already being framed with planted evidence. Josiah confirmed he'd hidden a puppet in Corwin's home, Mercy, and William fled to the stables, whispering through the horses' stamping hooves. "We must get this to Governor Phipps," William urged. "I can reach Boston in 2 days." "No," Mercy said. "I'll go. They watch you too closely. I'm more likely to slip away." They agreed William would create a diversion. She'd escape south with the evidence. But just as her escape was set in motion, the worst happened. As the emergency bell rang, her bedroom door flew open. Sheriff Josiah entered, flanked by deputies. "Mercy Blackwell," he intoned, You stand accused of witchcraft and conspiracy against godly authority." Behind him stood Ezekiel and Nathaniel, their faces expressionless. "Search her room," Ezekiel ordered. "The devil leaves traces." The deputies moved with practiced speed, tearing apart Mercy's chamber. It didn't take long. Beneath her mattress, they uncovered the hidden documents, the copied ledger pages, the notes, and her packed travel sack. Josiah scanned the pages, his brow darkening as he read. "Seems our niece has been quite industrious," he sneered, handing the evidence to his brothers. "Documenting her secret meetings with the devil, plotting to defame godly men." Mercy, barely able to speak, whispered, "How did you know?" Ezekiel stepped forward, his voice calm and low. "William has always been a faithful son. Did you truly believe he'd betray his blood for a foolish girl's fantasies?" The betrayal landed like a physical blow. She had trusted William without question, ever imagining he'd lead her into a trap. "Take her to the examination room," Nathaniel said flatly. "By dawn, I expect she confess and name her co-conspirators." Dragged down the steps. Beneath the meeting house, Mercy was taken to what they called the special holding room. In reality, it was a cold earthen cellar, damp, windowless, and heavy with silence. Here, the Blackwells conducted their most brutal interrogations, away from curious eyes and official records. She was bound to a wooden chair. Her wrists ached from the tight cords. The musty scent of mildew was thick in the air. Ezekiel entered alone, closing the door behind him. In his hands, he held the same leather-bound ledger that had exposed the truth. "I had high hopes for you," he said quietly, setting the book on a small table nearby. "Intelligence, combined with loyalty, a rare thing. You could have served the family well." Mercy raised her head. Her voice shook, but her words were clear. "How many?" she demanded. "How many innocents have you murdered for their land?" Ezekiel gave a slight shrug. "In times like these, people die. Some for show, some quietly, to avoid uncomfortable attention." He flipped to the last pages of the ledger. "The official tally will stand at 19 when this chapter closes, the real count." He gave a thin smile. "Let's just say our family's position will be unassailable for generations." "You won't get away with this," Mercy shot back. "Governor Phipps will investigate. People are already asking questions. By the time anyone comes looking, the trail will be long, cold, and those who might speak, they'll be gone like you." He dipped his quill in ink. "Now, I must decide what to write beside your name. What should it be, daughter?" That moment in the root cellar, silent, oppressive, final, would mark the unseen turning point in Salem's darkest hour. Though few would ever hear the truth, the chain of events set in motion that night would change the course of the trials forever. In October 1692, fate intervened. Governor William Phipps, returning earlier than expected from Boston, issued an immediate order halting all arrests based on spectral evidence. Public support for the trials collapsed. Behind the scenes, a mysterious letter had arrived in the governor's hands and owned, but containing damning evidence of judicial corruption, falsified confessions, and property theft tied to the Blackwell family. Then came the final blow. On October 29th, Colonial officials conducted a surprise inspection of Salem's court archives. During their search, they uncovered a private ledger hidden within the Blackwell's records. That night, the brothers vanished. They weren't the only ones. Several deputies loyal to Josiah disappeared as well. Rumors flew. Some said they'd escaped to Virginia. Others claimed they fled to the Caribbean, taking their fortunes with them. In the aftermath, Salem turned inward. Eager to forget, the colony focused on the 19 official victims. No efforts were made to investigate the deeper conspiracy. The families of the vanished were told their loved ones had fled. Most believed it. Some quietly did not. Nearly 3 decades passed. Then, in 1720, the past resurfaced. Workers renovating Salem's old meeting house stumbled upon a hidden chamber beneath the floor. Its walls bore scratched names and date scores of them. Bloodstains were found in the earth. Shallow graves dotted the site. Among the artifacts recovered, a small water-damaged journal. The author signed only with initials MB, but from the contents, it was clear it had belonged to Mercy Blackwell. Though many pages were ruined, one entry remained legible and unforgettable. The night they came for me, I believed my death was certain. Josiah raised the knife, but a disturbance above stopped him. William appeared in the doorway, not a traitor, but my deliverer. He had alerted the governor's men. In the chaos that followed, I saw justice, swift and divine. My uncles, once untouchable, fled like rats into the woods. I write this so future generations may know the truth. The Salem witch trials were no hysteria born of fear, but a campaign of greed, a conspiracy masked as religious zeal. The public remembers 19 dead. The real number is far greater. 237 names etched in this ledger, and into these walls. I write this in October 1720, having returned to Salem at last. The truth must not stay buried. The journal ends mid-sentence. Its final page, stained, possibly, with blood. No records mention what became of Mercy Blackwell after that. Some say she vanished, hunted down by kin, desperate to protect the Blackwell name. Others believe she lived in hiding until her death, her voice silenced but her truth enduring. Over time, the descendants of the Blackwells scattered. Some changed their names. Yet property records reveal a chilling continuity. Blackwell connected. Families retained control of Salem's most valuable land well into the 19th century, and in recent years, even darker pieces of the puzzle have surfaced. Letters dated between 1695 and 1730 suggest that the Blackwells re-established their influence in the southern colonies. There, the same pattern emerged: vanished dissidents, mysterious property transfers, justice warped to benefit a select few. The Salem witch trials remain one of America's most notorious injustices, but what's often remembered the hysteria, the accusations, the spectral evidence is only part of the truth. Behind it all was a deeper, more deliberate evil, and perhaps it never truly ended. What do you think? Was everything revealed, or are there still secrets buried beneath centuries of silence? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more stories like this, dark, hidden, and historically grounded, hit the bell and share this video with someone who loves unearthing the truth. This channel isn't for everyone, only those brave enough to stare into the darkest parts of our past. We'll see you in the next story.